I always felt there was a better way, a more natural way of doing things. To be honest, it's just something that's happened and progressed naturally. It's just felt right for me.
It's one of those things I just sort of feel we're doing the right thing, and you know, at the end of the day I want to be able to look my children in the eye and say, you know, we gave it our best shot.
If we want to keep farming, if we want to keep producing food, if we want to, that old one, you know, feed the world, the only way we're going to be able to do that is through regenerative agriculture.
Regenerative agriculture, you know, is all about basically increasing biodiversity.
What's the best of science? What's our best understanding of microbiological systems and soil chemistry, and bringing that all together?
It's about sequestering carbon into your soil. It's about looking after your water and creating clean water off your property.
It's very science-based, but at the same time it's been driven by farmers.
Whether those conversations are driven by farm system change or water quality or climate change, there's a whole lot of people on the same wavelength.
Agriculture as it stands today is the biggest polluter in the world. Greenhouse gases, groundwater pollution, all of it.
Farmers, I think, collectively need to see that they're a big part of the solution out there, and not to stick their heads in the sand and think it's going to go away, because the problem's getting worse. Our current farming models are really leaky. You know, they leak a lot of nitrogen, a lot of phosphate is lost from these environments.
Agriculture undoubtedly is one of the biggest problems on the planet, along with energy and economics and population, but agriculture is the big one that we can really turn around just by making these wiser regenerative farming techniques.
My father and his father, and they put superphosphate on. Man, it made the grass grow. It's incredible. But they kept putting it on, as they're advised to do. I mean, we'll berate farmers, but everything they're doing now, they've been advised to do.
Hi Nicole, how are you doing?
Great.
Good to see you guys.
Nitrogen use has gone up and up and up and up. I mean, you look from the 1980s to now, it's gone from 80 million tonnes to 120 million tonnes, even though we've known what nitrogen's doing into the environment.
It's like a drug addiction. It's exactly what it is, really. He can put it on, 6 weeks later he can see a result. Fantastic. But it's very detrimental to the soil, therefore it's detrimental to the plant, and therefore it's detrimental to the animal, and therefore it's detrimental to the human.
I think farmers need to take more responsibility for that.
You know, farmers do see themselves as stewards and they do want to do a good job, they just don't have the tools or the support in order to be able to reduce that nitrogen. We're going to look back on this and go, what were we thinking? How do we get that system to work as a cycle so we're not having these losses to the environment?
We've weaned ourselves off urea, so we're not adding any of that extra nitrogen onto our pastures.
My fertiliser budget 4 years ago was $100,000. Now it's about $35,000 a year. You know, 10 years time the fertiliser budget will be zero, because nature can do it all.
You just sort of take one step towards looking after nature and she'll come rushing back with 10. Nature is all about diversity, and diversity brings, you know, resilience to the farming system, and so with a number of little enterprises going on here that complement each other, while the pigs get to eat grass as well, that's being supplemented with milk, which is coming courtesy of a cow. But it's a perennial system that doesn't need all that fossil fuel energy to cultivate the grain. They love the milk. They just go nuts over it. You know, there's a lot of similarities between regenerative agriculture and organic, but I think regenerative agriculture is trying to take that next step.
So we just do everything different, and it's quite fun.
The hen house is behind those trees at the moment, but there's hens following behind that mob of cattle out there, and you know, the manure that is being left behind from the cattle, the birds, you know, the hens are scratching through it, spreading it, picking out insects and bugs, sort of sanitising the pasture and also giving us, you know, production by producing eggs.
You know, everything has multiple purposes, and you know, all the different little enterprises complement each other.
Right, well this is Mongarara Eco Lodge. The exterior is all milled from macrocarpa, which was grown on the farm. Or there you've got Horseshoe Lake, which is a nature reserve.
The goal of the farm is really just optimising life, and that's not just the life of the land and the life of the soil, it's the life of the people we get to meet and and that's really makes a pretty dynamic place.
It doesn't matter from how extreme, points of political view people might have. Ultimately, we want to leave a better future for our children.
I think they pick up a lot more than we realise about what we're doing and why we're doing it. We have a lot of conversations around the table that are quite huge, really, for an adult, let alone a child.
So you proud of your mum and dad for what they've done?
Yeah, I'm very proud of them. Yeah.
So I've got 22 different species in mine, and I want to just go a whole lot further than that. Well, I want them to have all of these different foods, a variety of foods. They've all got different mineral contents in them, and the cow will go and choose what she wants.
So people are really worried about nitrates in the waterways. You get diversity of species in there, you get your longer rounds, you've actually got root systems that capture that nitrate. Instead of what we currently have now is that the minute that nitrate gets below 2 inches, it's gone, and the plants can't get hold of it, and farmers are just wasting their money.
A lot of farmers look at the amount of grass that we've got and they just see it as waste. And I'm trying to explain to them that waste is a human concept, and nature doesn't actually do waste. It's part of a cycle, and what doesn't get eaten by an animal is feeding the soil biology. We let our grass get a lot taller than what most farmers would do, and certainly through the spring and into the summer we're taking some really long grass, and so when we're grazing cattle through, they're not eating every blade of grass.
The key philosophy being mimicking wild herds of buffalo and all that from the African and American plains in terms of how they moved, and always onto tall pasture. They'll take out a good proportion, half, 60% of the grass that's here, and what they don't take out, ideally they'll trample flat, and they'll shit and piss all over it. It basically forms a bit of a mulch, and so with good worm activity and other insects and that kind of stuff, they're starting to chew into that as it decomposes and bury it back down. So that's your carbon cycling, that's your nutrient cycles.
Beautiful soil. Everything comes back to soil. If we're talking about water quality, if we're talking about food quality, if we're talking about greenhouse gas sequestration or emissions, it all comes back to soil. Our current farming models are very inefficient. We're seeing a lot of losses, we see a lot of loss of soil, we're seeing a lot of loss of nitrogen and phosphate. So it all comes back to how do we manage soil. So looking at how do we regenerate that soil so that it will hold on to those pieces.
I've reduced my cow numbers drastically, which really hurt because my production fell. But it's starting to pay dividend now, a lot.
It's not just about how much you produce and how much money you make. That's got to be in balance with how much money you're spending to produce that. And our system is working on being a lower input system, and so the profits will be right up there.
People are scared. Yeah, I think they're scared of changing because debt, really. I think that's a big driver of all these people. I've got a neighbour here fairly close. He's been with me on some field days and done a lot of the stuff, but his debt's more than mine and mine's high, and he can't take the jump. It's too scary for him. These people need some help.
The farming leadership is not getting in behind this. There's farmers out there that are already doing what's needed, and yet we're not getting that groundswell in behind to kind of celebrate the people that are already doing just an absolutely awesome job. Sorry, I guess for me, I know how simple it is. I've been involved in this industry for 20 years. I'm a scientist, first and foremost. I know how the system works and I know how well it can work, and yet we're just not getting buy-in, and the water qualities, rivers are crashing, and I love this country.
I think creativity is probably the key force that we need at the moment, and a bit of open-mindedness.
They just think I'm wacky, which is fine by me. And once I'm further down the track and I've proven my model, then I hope some of them will come back and start talking to me. You know, when we get into February, March, when it's really dry and it's, you know, there's no grass around, but I'm still green and feeding my cows, I'm hoping they'll come through the gate and talk to me. And that'd be really cool.
The cool thing about this place is it's really open as a bit of an experimental site, and we're willing to take risks that other people might not.
I think the best thing is to come and have a look. Judge for yourselves.
Give it a go. Do some trials, small ones. It only has to be, you know, paddocks out of your system or a couple of hectares or whatever. Just try it and see what happens.
It's a really enjoyable way to farm, and that, you know, there's a whole lot of diversity going on, and so, you know, it's never monotonous in that, and there's that challenge, I guess, of trying to think your way through solutions rather than just buying your solution out of a bag, and so that's, you know, if you enjoy a challenge, then this is a beauty.